Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. Today, I want to share an experience about a legal situation that has been affecting me. You see, in my teen years, many moons ago, I was found guilty of a nonviolent felony. But in the decades, since the charge, I've had no further offenses aside from a few traffic violations. Now, I can't say that I led the most upstanding life during this entire time because I fell into addiction and I fell into self-harm and I fell into toxic relationships. But again, I had no further offenses. I did not commit any further crimes. In fact, I became active in volunteer and humanitarian work, and I built my own business from the ground, from complete scratch, my own dog boarding and dog sitting business that is now the top rated in the Valley on Rover. I've maintained my recovery from cocaine and self-harm for almost 5.5 years now. In that time, I started this community, I expanded my volunteer work, I distanced myself from people who tempt my shadow. I got decertified as SMI or having a serious mental illness. I began speaking on mental health podcasts about my story and trying to help and inspire people. I went back to school to pursue a degree in forensic psychology, where I have obtained my associates in 9 months, and I'm currently working on my bachelor's the entire time, maintaining a 4.0 GPA. And I'm also currently querying agents for a manuscript for a book that I've written. However, I've been turned down not just for jobs, but for volunteer opportunities because of this. And I don't even qualify for many non-paid internships because of this felony. And I just wanted to gain experience and build my resume while I was still in school. So that way, when I graduated, I would have something to present to potential employers. Considering my field, I know that it will be darn near impossible to obtain a position with this on my record. Earlier this year, I was advised by a mentor to apply for a governor pardon. And a governor pardon is defined as, and I quote, an expression of the governor's forgiveness and is granted in recognition of the applicant's acceptance of responsibility for the crime and established good conduct for a significant period of time after conviction or completion of sentence. Not to toot my own horn, but I thought I was the poster child for this. So I spent hours upon hours upon hours filling out paperwork, obtaining the necessary documentation, and requesting character references and going through the various steps like fingerprinting. And some of those, like fingerprinting, had a fee to them, but I just spent hours and hours going through this whole process with such glee and such anticipation. I think it's worth mentioning that these character references weren't my buddies. These weren't my friends. These were people who cited my outreach, my work for saving their lives. This was an esteemed professor, an advisor for a local congressman. These were dog clients that had trusted me in their homes for years upon years. These were the founders of nonprofits that I had served, one of which being a well-known international one. So when the clemency board asked if I wanted to appear in person for my hearing, I excitedly accepted the opportunity because I knew that they would see how desperately sorry I was for this transgression. And I felt so confident that anyone who heard my story of all the things that I've overcome, all the odds that I've had to go up against, and the resilience and the strength that I've developed would see the person that I am, not the person I was decades ago as a child whose prefrontal cortex hadn't even fully developed yet. Now, my original hearing was rescheduled because they lost my fingerprints, which is a bit annoying, but no matter. I asked one of my forensics professors, who is a supervisor for the Phoenix Police Department and who knows my entire story, mind you, if he could help me get replacements so that I wouldn't have to pay the fee again for those. He enthusiastically agreed to help, supporting the notion that having a 2-decade-old felony over my head after the transformation that I had made was asinine. So a respected member of our police force not only believing in me, but being willing to go to bat for me, being willing to help me and fight for me, really just fueled my confidence and excitement for the matter. And when the rescheduled date came, I could not sleep. As many of you know, it's an understatement to say that it's been a very challenging year for me. And I was so eager, after all the struggles and all the challenges and all of the big losses, to just have a big win to boost me up a little bit. So I dressed in a nice blazer and I dressed in a nice skirt and I put on my favorite pink heels. Elwoods would be very proud. And after waiting a few hours for the cases ahead of me that were parole hearings, I marched into that courtroom with my head high and I stood before a board of 4 strangers with pride. I wanted them to see that not every person that comes across their desk is a lost cause. And I wanted them to see that citizens could have respect and even admiration for them. And I will say that that was one of the hardest things for me to develop. It took me years to regain that after having felt slighted by the system back in those teen years. And I was just biting at the bit to share the story of perseverance with my son and frankly with all of you, because I wanted to prove that people can change, people can heal, that it's never too late to correct a mistake, that we can turn our lives around, and that justice will prevail. So they read a summary of my case and they asked me some questions about my offense, my life, my outreach, why I was seeking a pardon, etc., things like that. So the woman sitting raised above the others, she just sang my praises for several minutes. I mean, she just went on and on about what an upstanding citizen I am and how I'm pretty much a dream for them. They dream of someone like me walking through their doors. And I'm not gonna lie, I was literally in tears. I was literally just, my eyes were just welling up with tears because this was it. She was seeing me. She saw me, not my mistake, not my past, me. Now, the other woman on the board, who I would later learn to be the chair, she was the one to speak next. She stated that a pardon is the highest honor that one can obtain, that can be given, and ignoring everything else that was presented, she said that 5.5 years in recovery was not sufficient to merit that honor. She vetoed my request for a pardon and told me that I could reapply in 3 years. And the 2 gentlemen to either side of her, which, to be honest, I never felt like they took the slightest interest in my case, they followed suit. My pardon was officially denied. Now, I had tears streaming down my face, my stomach was in my throat. I was confused and I was heartbroken because I did not see that coming in a million years. I could understand if my recovery had been 6 months, or I would understand if there was just some criteria that I didn't know about that I didn't meet. But there was no criteria, just the whim of this woman, and I didn't understand it. So I looked at the first woman and I thanked her for believing in me, and I walked out of the courtroom. I sobbed in the parking lot. I sobbed all the way to the charging station for our car. But then I got angry and I punched the car seat and I screamed and I cursed and I watched some clips from the Saw franchise and I called the people closest to me and vented, and I was super animatedly waving my hands about, So I'm sure that the people parked in the cars next to me thought that I was certifiably insane. But I was channeling my anger in the healthiest ways that I could think of. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't cutting, I wasn't seeking out drugs, and I wasn't burning the courthouse to the ground. Then I had my Elwoods and the Bunny costume moment from Legally Blonde when Warner tells her that she's not smart enough for law school. There was no reason for this woman to deny me. From a logistical standpoint, 85% of people who relapse do so within the first year. There's no significant difference in recovery numbers between year 5 and year 8. Would you guys agree that I'm beyond a model citizen? And if I don't qualify for a pardon, who the frick does? Do I need to win the Nobel Peace Prize here? Do I need a letter of reference from the Pope? I went home and I emailed the director of the board about the situation. And then I saved a picture of this woman that denied me as the lock screen on my phone. And I did this as motivation to prove her wrong and to show her just how valuable Amanda can be. So her director emailed me back a few days later and told me there's nothing we can do. And also told me, by the way, that they lost my audio recording for the hearing that I had requested. But if there's nothing that she can do, what's the point of a director? If there's no way to appeal and there's no way to take a situation of injustice or a situation that doesn't seem to have been evaluated extensively, if there's nobody to take that to, what's the point of a director? So my faith in the justice system is unsteady at best right now, because I feel dismissed and I feel mistreated. And with the way this year has gone, with the financial and the medical and the personal crises that have just rained down on my head and fallen into my lap, I feel like I could have thrown my hands in the air and justified diving nose first into a pile of white powder. I could have said, what's the point? And just dropped out of school. I could have fallen into a dark pit and withered away there. But oh no, I am not giving that woman the satisfaction. It would mean so much to me if you guys could share this video. One, to expose the faults in our system. But secondly, to accentuate something that I say frequently. No lite te bastardes carborundorum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Now, to be clear, I don't say this with disrespect toward her as a person. I say this with extreme frustration toward the system. But I also say this as a reminder that you can't let the people who reject you, who don't see your value, who don't believe in you, or who try to stand in between you and your goals, you can't let those people get to you. You can't let those people stop you. I am going to show her and all of you what fighting for ourselves and fighting for justice looks like. I am not giving up, and neither can you. So keep fighting your fights and your battles here with me, and show all of these people who thought that we couldn't do it, let's show them how wrong they are. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for sharing this video, and I will see you soon. Mwah.